Everybody good? Glenn's audio actually working?
You didn't test it. It's not going to work.
No,
I'm so
rolling
confident
dice.
when you say ready, set, go, I'm not even going to hit record.
3, 2, 1, record.
It
Thank
works.
Christmas miracle.
No, D, just hit record.
I hit record.
Hello, my friends.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, a weekly information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 26 of 2023, and I'm happy my hosts are back home safely. Week 26 of 52 means that we are halfway through the year. With me, I have my co-host, the Hot Dad, fresh off his hiking trip where he worked on toning his calves.
I don't know about toning my calves, but I did rub holes in the back of my heels and bled everywhere. That's what you shouldn't take new hiking boots.
Oh, you didn't break them in.
Oh.
So,
Either that or they're cheap shoes.
nah, they weren't cheap, but I disagree. Like there was a point in time where like I was doing lots of running, and I was like, oh, you know, I want to buy some Air Max 360s because that looks like it's just like running on pillows. And I ran a quarter of a mile, and instantly I had like 6 blisters. It was like game over. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, but then I would go out and buy like a New Balance or the Asics, and there'd be nothing wrong, and there was no break-in period. So I kind of felt like if a shoe fits, it should just work. I don't know how to break. I don't know. I'm not used to breaking anything in. But yeah, anyways, it's broken in with blood.
But some shoes aren't built for running. I don't think an Air Max 360 is built for running. The New Balance and those other shoes, yeah. Those are built for
Air Max
running.
360 is a running shoe.
That was a running shoe, yeah.
Was
I
it
had the
really?
180s back in the day, yeah. They're meant as running shoes.
Yeah,
Just whether or
I
not
thought those
they're
were more
good.
I thought those were more cross trainers, though, aren't they? No.
Yeah.
But for like, I think even then it was a short run. Like I think like 3 or 4 miles. Like that should not have been anything. I remember I was like in so much pain. I took the shoes off and walked back, and it was a hot day out in Arizona. Yeah, yeah.
You ran back in your socks.
No, I walked back because my ish was all tore up, so there was no running that day.
And we have Glenn Medina defrosting from his trip to Glacier Country.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be back. Oh my god. I was in preparation for multiple clothes changes and layers of clothes. We took 3 checked in luggage over there, and used every article of clothing that we had inside each luggage. Just trying to make sure we stayed
What was
warm.
the temp over there?
It was nice. It was a low at one day it was 50 and a low of like 40. And the other one was like a low of, still a low of 40 and a high of 60. Like everyone was wearing shorts at 60 degrees over there. It was just like, hey, there's a heat wave coming through. So, but it wasn't the
By their
temperature.
standards.
It wasn't the temperature that was bad or was good or whatever, right? It was the fact that it was like pretty close to 22 hours of sunlight and 2 hours of dusk, which made it really cool. So if you guys have ever been above the Arctic Circle or close to the Arctic Circle, it is quite a phenomenon.
What was that? Was that your favorite part of the trip?
Yeah, because like I played golf at 11:30 at night, and
it's still sunny.
We started at 10, we ended at 1, and it was still sunny. It was amazing. You could still see the ball. Yeah, I was expecting it to be dusk already and couldn't see anything, and we were like I said, it was nice outside.
I have an uncle that served in the Navy, and when he was circling around the Arctic, he would say there was like 23 and a half hours of sunlight. It would just completely throw off your circadian rhythm.
So on the flip side, is there a part of the year where it's 23 hours of darkness?
Correct, and it's
Yeah, okay.
yeah, very much so. So like on the other side, I think starting in November, December, and maybe the middle of January, it's 60 days of dark.
So that's the Antarctic right now. Is probably
Yeah.
23 hours of darkness.
Yeah.
I just have the Chappelle Show thing going through my head. Darkness, everybody! Darkness is spreading.
Yeah. And the
I don't
other
remember
thing
what the
that,
context was, but I remember that.
and the other
Dave
thing that was
Chappelle.
the other thing that was cool about Iceland is I've never felt so safe like in a city of, I think they said it was like 300, 400,000 folks.
Reykjavik.
Or population, yeah, it was like 200,000, I think, lives in Reykjavik, or 300,000 live in Reykjavik. Like the cops don't wear guns. It's like a stop, or I'll say stop again type stuff. But no, it was very safe. Like walking around at 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning in a drunken stupor, back to the hotel. No one's sitting there bugging you. So it was awesome.
It's good. It's because you're on an island. Even if there's crime, where would you go?
Yeah, to a boat. Yeah.
Swim.
So they don't have crime there? They don't have homelessness?
Oh, they have crime.
Drugs?
They have homelessness, but to them, I don't think it's as bad as it is in here.
No guests this week. Combined, we have decades of information security experience. We're here not just to educate, but to entertain. We've got 4 awesome stories for you this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This week, we're going to talk about summer travel tips, the very slow gears of justice turning. For our third topic, ransomware closes a business, and we'll close with Messi talk.
Messi as in the soccer dude Messi.
Yeah, Lionel Messi.
Messi like my office.
Yeah.
Oh.
For our first topic, we are in the heart of summer travel season, and now that the pandemic is officially over, airports are reporting record high travel once again. I thought it would be a good reminder for our listeners to talk about some common scams and traveling tips for when you attempt to disconnect for travel this summer. Attackers do not go on vacation, and neither should security awareness. First one, beware of vacation rental scams. The, quote, wire me the money to secure your reservation is a tale as old as time, but with vacation rental platforms like Airbnb and VRBO gaining popularity, so are the scams. There are entire hacker toolkits out there made to look like a clone of Airbnb's website, and when it comes time to make a payment, you either wire the money, send cryptocurrency, or make a deposit using a credit card, and there's no actual reservation made. These scams clone existing listings or create entirely fake ones. Whenever possible, use a credit card. In the United States, credit card holders are not responsible for fraudulent charges made without their authorization, even with phishing attacks in most cases. Wire transfers, personal check, and money orders have very limited, if any, recourse in the event of fraud. Do you guys know anyone that's ever fallen victim to this kind of scam? Vacation rental? Fake sites?
I'm fearful now. I think I just paid for an Airbnb in solid gold. So
Sent some gold bullion coins.
I sent a couple goats, and as a deposit, I think we're good. So, yeah.
I've had the scam of we'll rent it out to you cheaper if you just circumvent Airbnb altogether. We'll cancel the reservation.
Cut out the middleman fees. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Do you do that, or do you still go through the platform?
I say I like to cancel the reservation. I just go book something else. I'm like, this dude's shady, man. I'm gonna get there and just have a bad time. My daughter went to Utah recently, and when they got there, the key to get inside the building wasn't there, so they ended up like sitting outside the place for a couple of hours. And the guy showed up, and he's like, I don't know what happened. I apologize, but just park your car here. Blah blah blah. They get into the Airbnb. They wake up the next morning, the car's towed.
Oh no!
So the spot that he recommended that they park in, they had to pay like $300 to get out of Hawk, and they message him like, hey, listen, like where you told us to park, we got our car towed, and he doesn't even answer, just like whatever. So.
Because he owns the towing company. Ha ha ha.
Right.
He's also the sheriff of the town too.
No kidding.
So beware of actual scams happening on the Airbnb platform.
Yeah, I have you seen people like sell homes that way as well? Like for some reason there's a transfer of title, and you've got some moving company moving to your house, and people are like, hey, I've got the title of the house. My house was sold. Your house is sold. It's mine now. And I'm like, nah, I don't think so. It actually happened to a friend of mine where he was trying to get into his house, and somebody had opened the side door, and it was inside of his house sitting, and he had confronted him. He had called the cops, and apparently the guy that was buying the house was defrauded out of his down payment on the house or something like that. It was just really strange. I don't know if you guys heard of that.
So I've heard of like the squatter thing where during the time the house transfers title, the house is empty, someone starts living there, and then if there's squatter rules, especially here in California, and some cities have very strong squatter protections that you can't legally kick them out. You have to like evict them, go through this whole eviction process, even though they're just literally squatting in your house.
I'll evict with my fist, very simply. Have you guys seen the Tinder Swindler on Netflix?
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Yeah, so I at first glance, I'm like, this is nothing I'm really interested in. But I think it was like an hour and 45 minutes. But the show was wild. This dude is like coming off, like he's like flying in private jets, hooking up with like random women, and then just taking them for everything they own. And it ends like Arlington Road, right? Like it does not end in a favorable fashion at all. Everyone's like, I don't know if I've ever seen Arlington Road. If you haven't, go watch it and you'll just be pissed off like me.
That was that was a Netflix commercial, wasn't it?
Tinder Swindler's a
show.
Netflix. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
Netflix show.
documentary.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically come off as a really rich guy and then say, he'd always have an excuse like, my bank accounts are frozen or my enemies are monitoring my bank account. I need you to take out a loan, wire me the money. I promise to pay you back double or something like that. And these people that he would meet on Tinder, they would believe him, give him all this money and open credit cards in their name, give him the credit card and he'd charge up the limits. And yeah, basically he was not who he says he was. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, all it took was this one chick that wasn't that dumb, right? Like, let's say his name is Peter Smith. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to send you a credit card. And it shows up and she's like, why does it say Glenn Medina on it? You're like, I don't understand. He's like, let me explain. Like, if it looks and smells like crap, you're right, pretty much is. And she kind of was this snowball moment for that guy's ending his career.
Yeah. So another tip while traveling, as much as you can, do not use public Wi-Fi networks if possible. Many mobile carriers now offer free international roaming or make it available at low cost. I've talked about it before, how easy it is to do an evil twin attack, that even if you're connecting to Marriott guest or Hilton guest, that could be a fake hotspot and stealing your data. So just in general, try not to use public Wi-Fi if you can. If you absolutely have to use public Wi-Fi, use a VPN, because the VPN will encrypt your traffic, even if someone's trying to sniff it on the wire.
I thought VPNs are dumb.
VPN for accessing
Personal use.
Yeah, for accessing enterprise applications, we can have a conversation there. But for personal use, it's a must if you use public Wi-Fi.
So what VPN are you using, Christopher?
I won't tell you what I use. I'll give a few recommendations though. So the ones that I can recommend, Proton VPN. I like them because they're based in Switzerland and they're
That's what he's using.
one of the
Okay, go on.
true no-log ones.
Can we get a sponsorship here? So, yeah.
I mean,
WinScribe.
he uses the email service too, so.
WinScribe is another good one. I've heard good things about WinScribe. And then I think TunnelBear is the other one. I've never used them, but I know that they have gone through an independent third-party audit. And when they say no logs, they really mean no logs.
So with everything being encrypted nowadays, what would you be fearful of having? Like, what kind of data would you suspect people would be getting from you?
Well, if you use something like TLS strip in the middle for an adversary in the middle attack, they could, in theory, try to take away the TLS encryption or get in the middle there. So that's possibly...
The user would have to be an absolute moron. So for a majority of people listening, that's not the case.
Well, they'd have to click on the accept certificate every time, right? I mean, if someone was doing something like that in the middle, right? Man in the middle attack.
Yeah,
you'd have to approve every certificate that comes across.
Open file shares. A lot of people, when they connect to a network, they say I'm on a public or I'm on a home network, so you could have open file shares. This happened to me when I was in college, and I don't consider myself a hacker. I was technically savvy, but when we were in college, it's one gigantic local LAN, and I could get into like so many people's computers. And I did the responsible thing. I dropped a file in their desktop that said "Open Me," and I said, "Hey, this is your file system's wide open. I can steal anything I want. You better close it," and send them instructions on how to close it.
Network neighborhood, the good old days.
Yeah. The other. Go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say, like, sometimes I'm bored. I have too much time in my hand, and I will try to capture as much traffic just leaving my own house because I have so much IoT and a family of 6, and like I can't make sense out of any of it. It's always encrypted. There's nothing really that sexy to get a hold of. Maybe a website that I've never been to that I'm requesting in HTTP that just does a quick redirect to HTTPS, but that's about it.
The other thing you can worry about is if you're connected to an evil twin is a DNS poisoning attack. You could think you're going to PayPal.com, but they're actually sending you to a fake website because they own the DNS server and they're telling you where to go. So a DNS poisoning attack is a
that's more
as well.
that's probably more legitimate though, right? Than a man in the middle.
Yeah, probably at this point with how much HTTPS there is out there.
Yeah, but if I'm traveling and I have to open up PayPal, I'm definitely not doing that on there. Like, what are we actually doing? Right? We're opening up. We're going to go to Netflix, maybe YouTube, and that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to. Oh, it's a great time to pay all my bills with my personal credit card, real quick. Might as well.
Log into your corporate VPN while you're at it.
Yeah. So hey, I got a question for you guys. So on the topic of travel safety, do you guys use debit card or Visa? Because I know, Chris, you just mentioned in there about using your credit card versus a check or a MasterCard, or a check or a bank check or a money order or something like that, right? Do you guys have
always a credit card?
Have a preference? Yeah. One, yeah.
Always. I always use a credit card if I travel international. There's credit cards with no international transaction fee, but always use credit if you can.
So I have a friend or a couple of people that I know, they use their bank debit card, and I tell them,
bad idea.
Like, hey, that's a really bad idea. And do we want to let users know why we think it's a bad idea? Like I said, in our opinion, right? Of course. So, Chris, you know
of
it.
Course.
Yeah, let's explain to our user segment why using a bank debit card's a bad idea.
It deducts directly from your bank account. So if it's compromised, someone can just keep withdrawing cash, and even if it's fraudulent, like these investigations take months, so you can be out $5,000-$10,000 for months, and for someone that could be their rent money, that could be their medical bill money. On a credit card, you don't have to pay it. You're not left holding the bag, and the protections are a little bit better now for debit cards. But credit card, you're $0 liable for fraudulent charges. For debit, there are some nuances there with that. So always use credit.
Yeah, and that's what I heard as well, right? So even on the protection, if you were to use a bank debit card, they could theoretically only protect up to like $50 per transaction, but even then it takes a while for the investigation to kick off, and sometimes it's 1 to 2 months for that money to return back to your account, which you lose access to, versus, like you said, a bank credit card, they take full responsibility of that balance at the beginning. So
you might find yourself in a predicament similar to like my wife and her friend when they went to Israel. So they flew in Tel Aviv, but they were staying like in Jerusalem and then also like in Bethlehem. And at some point in time, like you need to always have cash, right? And so you have a couple of options in the risk versus reward and all that good stuff. So I was like, well, the exchange rates are like they're killer, and I thought, this is not a good idea. And trying to do a cash advance on a credit card, I was like, I don't want to do that either, just because there could be associated fees. So I was like, how about we do the debit card? And what we did in this particular use case, one is it was a debit card that was tied to just a singular account that had a finite amount of cash in their period, and there was no withdrawing or link to other accounts for like an overdraft. Two, I instructed both my wife and her friend on how to look at an ATM and pick off like if there's a skimmer on there or something like that, like some precautionary things. And then the last one was
yank on the card reader.
Yank on the card reader, yeah. Like just try to fiddle around with it. And the last one was went out and found out the top 5 big banks in Israel and said, if you're going to go to an ATM, go to one of these 5 banks and you should be okay.
Yeah. As long as you put guardrails and have other safety measures and compensating controls on it, I think that's fine. It should be the phrase shouldn't be never use a debit card. It's if you can use a credit card and use a debit card only as a last resort.
So here's another one for you guys as well. So going to Iceland,
All right.
pretty cashless. Like they told us, don't take cash, and if you do, take a little bit. Don't exchange any. Every transaction I had out there was in credit card form, so which was nice. I took $200 in cash just in case because I don't like to travel without it. But it was really nice. The other thing, and this is a really cool thing, was everything was as expensive as everything was. Tip was included and not expected, so it was nice to just write down the amount of the check for dinner or lunch and just leave and not have to worry about having a tip on top of that. That was awesome.
That's actually got to be a story number 4 for maybe we'll do it next week or the week after of tipping culture because in my opinion it's gotten out of control here in the U.S. and I don't want to get into it now since we're gonna make a topic out of it. But
I'm with you on that. Yeah,
there you go.
Lively conversation about that one.
Yeah, because he's a cheap bastard. That's why.
So Glenn, was it primarily swipe or chip?
Chip. Everything was chip. Yeah, chip. Yeah.
That's what drives me nuts about the U.S. is like
behind again. We're the last country on earth that still swipes.
Yeah. Yep. And it was not chip insert. It was chip tap.
Yeah,
tasty.
NFC.
Yeah. So
COVID friendly.
Yeah. The other thing that's interesting is they don't take your card, right? They're not allowed to take your credit card, go swipe it or chip it, and then come back with the receipt. They give you the machine, and you are supposed to tap it on your own. Your credit card always stays on it the whole time.
Yeah, that's most of Europe. That's most of Europe. The U.S. is backwards in that way as well.
Yeah, well, backwards in many ways, but yeah.
All right, last 2 things I wanted to mention before we move on. Number 1, be cautious when charging. Don't plug into random USB charging cables that you find at the airport or at a tourist spot. They could potentially steal your data. And the last one, keep your devices up to date. Always do apply the OS software updates before you leave.
You should link in a USB data blocker for like iOS and Android to the show notes for everyone.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, when charging on an unknown plug, like airplanes nowadays have USB ports on them. Again, I don't trust it, so I use a USB data blocker. It's actually commonly referred to as a USB condom. That's a generally accepted term for this device, but it only allows the power pins to go through, and it completely blocks the data pins.
We need
That's
to get
what I call Zscaler. It's an internet condom. So
I'll link through to the one that I personally use.
We need to get some branded for the show here and give them away as goodies for our listeners.
All right, for episode 120, maybe we'll get some made up.
There you go.
There you go. Jinx.
I got you.
124. 124.
Well, since we had such a lively discussion on topic 1, I'm going to skip topic 2 for now. Maybe we'll move that one to next week and move on to topic 3. This will be our ransomware story of the week. A hospital in Illinois has closed its doors, citing a ransomware attack as one of the reasons it chose to do so. A 2021 ransomware attack against the St. Margaret's Health crippled its systems and operations for months and stopped them from billing, collecting payments, offering services, and shut down its entire electronic medical records, or its EMR system, IT systems, and email systems as well. With paper processing, sometimes it took months to send the claim to an insurance company, and they have clauses in there that says you must send those claims in a timely manner. So the bills went out, no money was coming in. Unfortunately, companies shutting down as the result of a cyber attack is become more common, and there's actually a public tracker for them now, and I'll link through to them in the show notes of all the companies that shut down due to a cyber attack. So unfortunately, this hospital didn't survive, and citing the ransomware attack as one of the main causes.
I feel like I should take an idea from that TV show Schitt's Creek and try to target a small town. Because if I went after like the courthouse and the major hospital that's there, that like a small town, I'm talking like a population of like 8,000, in like, a couple gas stations, I could probably buy that town pretty cheap. Because I guarantee you they have zero. Like, I think the level of effort to infect Globe, Arizona would be very, very easy. Like, I think they could shut down the entire town if I really wanted to. And probably with less than 4 hours of effort. Like, that's how little I believe in their security.
They're probably still running Flash, so just find some kind of Flash vulnerability.
That and their own Exchange server. So...
Yeah, I think you just walk in. Like, I think you just walk in, like, just, it's like you own the place. Be like, oh, all right, he has a tie on. He should be able to do this. And just start plugging stuff in. Shoot.
Just drop a USB key in the parking lot.
Yeah. I think people would willingly do it. Like, hey, do you like your job? And like, no, man, F these guys. I'm like, I thought so. Hey, plug this into your computer when you get in. But you would go belly up. Like, if you took on, like, the hospital in question in Globe is called Cobra Valley. I guarantee you they're not ready for any of this stuff. Like, if they got hit with ransomware, they're just going to lock the doors. Patients are going to die, and it's end of days over there. So I'm not surprised. I almost wonder if this hospital was small as well.
They didn't say how many
operated
beds in
servers. 6. They own 6 hospitals or something like that in the area.
A couple of them, yeah. And
Cool.
it's one of those things that, like you said, they don't have a whole lot of IT staff. They're relatively small staffed, and they're focused on providing care, not securing against ransomware attacks. And there is a thought floating around that maybe the government should help subsidize like the IT and security systems of critical infrastructure, like have some kind of shared services model. They do this in Canada. They have an IT shared services model where the government of Canada all relies on one government body to help them secure their IT systems. And maybe that's what we need here in the US for things that are critical, like hospitals and power plants.
Wait, have you not heard of the tick? What the heck, man?
How about submarines? Shared services for submarines.
Too soon, Glenn.
Sorry, did I hit a nerve?
I won't say this is every credit union in the United States, but every credit union, at least in Arizona, they outsource all the IT, like their website and everything they do internally. It's like an MSP, right? And I forget the name of the system on the back end. It's like if you crack one, you crack them all. Like it's game over there.
That's the danger, yeah, because there was a dentist MSP that got hit, and every single dentist that subscribed to them got hit as well. They went upstream, so you really, really have to protect that core there. Or
we shouldn't be saying this stuff.
Apply the principles of zero trust. Yeah. You have a zero trust network access, then and that's not an issue. But if you have a flat network like with VPN, then you're asking for trouble.
Exactly. Might as well be a bullseye, as they said in Wedding Crashers.
Like I said, some other hospital chain will probably buy this, absorb it into its system, and replace all the systems, and buy it for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, that's the hope, because hospitals do provide a critical service, and if you shut one of them down, that's one less place to go to, and that's not going to change the amount of demand for hospitals. That just means the surrounding hospitals get busier and have longer wait times.
Yeah.
For our last topic, and it'll be a rotating topic every week. This week, we're going to talk about a classic Silicon Valley dilemma, and I asked my co-host, what would you do? In the hit HBO TV show Silicon Valley, the protagonist, Richard, is faced with a dilemma. He developed a software program that a big tech company, which is supposed to represent Google, they will buy it for $10 million in cash and own it forever. His other option is he could take a $2 million investment for a 20% stake in the company and try to grow it into something bigger. They both value the company at $10 million, but Richard obviously takes the investment or there would be no 4 seasons of the show. Soccer, for the rest of the world, football, star Lionel Messi had a similar dilemma. Saudi Arabia was willing to pay Messi $200 million a year with a guaranteed 6-year contract to play for their league. Football star David Beckham and a cohort of investors convinced Messi to play for a much lower salary for Inter Miami, a US-based team, in exchange for equity. David Beckham was given a similar deal that if he left and came to the US to play for the LA Galaxy, he would have the option to buy an expansion team for $25 million. And that was a good move because he bought Inter Miami for $25 million, and now it's worth $580 million, a really good return on investment. Now, Messi gets a salary from Inter Miami. He gets an option to buy an expansion team. And to sweeten things, he'll get a cut every time Apple sells a subscription to their Major League Soccer pass. And he'll get a cut every time Adidas sells a soccer jersey or a pair of shoes. So Messi thinks that the long-term goal of buying a team, getting a cut from Apple, getting a cut from Adidas, is going to be worth more than the $1.6 billion he was offered from Saudi Arabia. So would you guys take the guaranteed payout, or would you take the equity?
Well, if any of you guys have watched Air, I think it's on Netflix. It speaks the same
Prime.
thing about. Is it Prime? Okay,
Yeah,
the same
Air's
thing
on
about
Prime.
Michael Jordan, right, and his contract deal. I thought that was pretty ingenious. Like 20%.
Thank God for his mom. She's the
Yeah.
one that made that happen.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I think he's.
I
Making
still haven't seen
$2
that,
billion.
so I'll have to watch that one.
Yeah, you'll have to watch it. Yeah, but along the same lines, right? That this is good for them. I'm just jealous that it's not me.
Getting paid. Would
Yeah.
you have sold out to Saudi Arabia, take the $1.6 billion guaranteed?
No, I wouldn't take the 1.6. Like I said, that what these guys have built or are building is generational wealth. We're way past them. The money's just going to keep building itself. I think it will be. What do you guys think?
I think in this scenario with the sports, it definitely makes sense. But can we pause real quick? He was going to get paid $200 million a year to kick a ball. Like, just let that settle in and think about like what we do for a living day in and day out. way harder than that. I don't know what to tell you.
For 6 years, guaranteed. Like,
Yeah, but what if he
I
got
think
injured? Is there an injured contract inside there as well? Like if he didn't play, would he still
No,
get
it's
paid?
guaranteed. It's guaranteed,
Okay.
yeah. And he's 36, so he's near the tail end of his career, which is probably why he decided to leave PSG. And same with David Beckham. He left when he was around his mid-30s, which is the tail end of his career too. So I mean, it's good. He'll be 42 at the end of that 6-year contract, which is way over the hill for most football players, but guaranteed money. But he took the equity route. He thinks that's going to be worth way more.
I mean, good for him. I hate soccer, so like whatever. Dumbest sport I've ever watched. So on the flip side, right? So I would agree with the athletes that are here. Go for the long-term vision. Now, if I were gambling man and I'm going out to do like the Powerball, is it Powerball? What's the big one that's like multi-state?
The Powerball lottery?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
All
That's
right, so-
multi-state, yeah.
I'm doing the lump sum. I'm not taking the money over 20 years.
In general, that's what the finance experts say as well, based on the time value of money, based on having, and I guess there's a giant asterisk around that. Take the lump sum if you can save responsibly. You're not going to buy the stripper girlfriend a Porsche and a 10-carat diamond ring. Maybe if that's the case, take the money over time. But if you can be responsible with the money, you should take the lump sum.
Get a lump sum, and I'm going to try to rejuvenate MCI WorldCom. Just bring it back, baby. I think it's a surefire deal. What do you think?
I would not invest in MCI WorldCom's comeback.
Are you laughing in the background? Is Zoom muting you? Because all you see is just smiling at me like, what an idiot. Or are you kind of giggling? I can't tell.
I'm just giggling.
All right.
It's just so random. You want to bring back MCI WorldCom. Of all the defunct companies to bring back, why not bring back Enron?
Or Enron. What's another one?
Global Crossing.
Global Crossing. No, I'm not going to say this because you'll put it as an NFT or something like that. So I'll bite my tongue. I'll say it after the recording.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? You going for the long-term investment?
I'm in the same boat. I think equity is the way to go, and I sort of liken it to our jobs today. So the three of us have a commission component to our we have a salary, we have an on target earnings, and I've I can at least speak for myself. So I've had decent years. I've had really good years, but I've never had years that would compare to what it was to get equity in the company, either be it pre-IPO options or the ESPP that comes with working for a company, or options grants that comes working for the company. Equity is the way to go, and that's how you build that generational wealth. You can work really, really hard and make a decent commission check, but it's almost always on the equity side that people really, really get that payday.
Agreed. I think that so it's worked out for us, but I think that some people that have worked, we'll call it, to say Zscaler, you're there pre-IPO and you go public, and then people are just like they look at it, and then they're constantly trying to chase that dream over and over again, right? So they leave and they go to another startup, and the reality is to actually go public is like so wild. Like it's so rare, in my opinion.
Like 1 in 1,000. I forget what the stat is. It's like 1 in 1,000. You either get acquired or you go out of business.
Unless your name is Mark Harris, who this dude is the IPO whisperer. I think he went public at F5, and then Barracuda, I believe, and then he went public at Zscaler again. If he ever leaves Zscaler, I might have to take a long, hard look at where he's going, because this dude is he has struck gold 3 times, and it just blows my mind that he's been that well to do with picking companies to go work for. Do you know anybody else in the industry that's actually ever done that?
I don't know anyone that's gone 3 IPOs. Acquisition, yes, but 3 IPOs is pretty rare.
I was talking to someone that we all know, and I was asking him, because he left Axis Security right as they were acquired. And I was like, man, that must have been great, like a great windfall of cash. He's like, no. He's like, you want to go public. He's like, getting acquired is just a tax problem. It just makes doing your taxes that much more difficult. It was not worth it whatsoever. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
It's true. So in general, when you have an LP, like limited partnership, the investors, in acquisition, you usually make and there's a general rule, 3 to 5x your return on acquisition, but an IPO can be anywhere from 20 to 100 times, depending what stage you got at. So you always want to go IPO if you can. It's not chump change when you get acquired, but between the 2 IPOs is the way to go. And I also want to caveat it. So it's not without risk. Taking the equity is not without risk. So like companies I think of, WeWork, Theranos, some of these companies that gave massive stock, or I shouldn't say massive, they gave stock grants that were worth massive amounts of money. At its peak, WeWork was worth $60 billion right before they were supposed to IPO. Now, I haven't checked lately, but I think they're like worth $5 billion today or something. And Theranos doesn't even exist today. Their stock was worth, all their market cap was like $8 billion, I think, at the time, their valuation. And now today it's worthless. So equity is not always a guaranteed payout, but if it's worth the risk, like I think Apple will sell Major League Soccer passes. I think Adidas will sell shoes and jerseys. So that's a risk worth taking, in my opinion.
Apple selling guaranteed oil changes for Toyota Highlanders, not so much. I get that. So, it's funny though. Like there is a risk. I remember when I left F5, quarterly we were closing between me and my one account rep. We were probably closing 10 to 15 deals a quarter, right? And then left F5, came over to Zscaler, and I remember negotiating and talking about the ISOs and stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, this is like monopoly money. Like, you're telling me it's worth something. I don't believe you whatsoever. Like, I don't get it. Like, I understand, and this is negotiating with a guy. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't care. And then I remember coming to an agreement, started the company, and then it was like I went from closing 10 to 15 deals a quarter to like closing 1 or 2 in my first year. And I remember just sitting here like, my God, this was the biggest mistake of my life. I'm in a very challenging territory. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we are going to go public. All right. And then that happened. Then all of a sudden, then it all changed. Then you went from the 1 or 2 a year back to becoming highly transactional, quarterly and all that good stuff. I can't talk about anything in the last couple years because there's that whole like, insider trading thing that we don't want to cross the line. But yeah, it definitely worked out in my favor and your favor as well too.
Yeah, that's the risk of joining an earlier stage startup versus an established company. Is you take the risk, you join it, you're invested in it. It's in your interest to grow the business and help it succeed, and it worked. It worked for us. We have this monopoly money until such day that we go public, and then now it's worth
becomes real.
So inflated dollars.
Directly from Citrix, or were you at like Iron Key or Ironport? I can't remember.
I was at Iron Key before. So what happened in Iron Key was the assets of the company got acquired, but the company itself did not get acquired. So that's how they were able to acquire the company without paying us all out. So we kind of got hosed on that one, which is another risk of owning that equity. If they structure the deal in such a way, like they acquire the assets, but they don't acquire the company, then you can end up with zero.
So you joined roughly a year before me, right?
Yeah.
Were you at all thinking, like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, was this a mistake? Were you just like, you believed in the tech, you just knew that it was going to happen, and you knew you were going to be okay?
I was a true believer. I knew that we might be a little bit early at the time because companies are still very much on premises, and this notion of cloud was sort of emerging at the time. But I believe it was the right company, right place, right time, and here I am 7.5 years later.
For real. That's wild, man. I think it was a little contagious. I think Bill Lapp, Guy Moran, and you, like this, your wholehearted belief in the company and everything that we were doing, like it just spread, right? The next thing you know, I felt like I was walking around sounding like Bill Lapp. I'm like, why do I sound like this dude? And I'm like, I just starting to believe. And and then as sad as it is, man, like if it wasn't for COVID, right? I think COVID really helped with network and digital transformation in the whole.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yeah. And if everyone's wondering what happened to always late Glenn Medina, he just said be back, and he just exited the recording. So Lord knows he's probably reading his horoscope. I don't know. Like, what does Glenn do? Maybe he's using the restroom. Like, whatever.
It's one of those things. If we don't hear back from him in 12 hours, we alert the Coast Guard.
Exactly.
Well, we continue to get great comments about our dad joke of the week.
Dad joke of the week.
This week, Brian's up.
I just closed my notes. So let me...
You can't recall one off the top of your head?
I could, but I had some dialed in today that I thought were better than the other. So,
all right, Control-Shift-T.
It was actually on my phone, unfortunately. So,
pro tip for you people out there: this actually helped my wife when you want to reopen the tab you just closed. Control-Shift-T, or on the window on a Mac, Command-Shift-T. It opens the last window you closed.
And if you have a fear that your significant other is using a incognito window, just open up a terminal session and do ARP-A. You'll see everything that they were just on. All right. Did you know that cigarette companies killed their best customers? And on the other hand, did you know that condom companies kill their newer customers? Is that not going to work?
That's fine. I'll let that one slide. A literal dad joke.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, to wrap things up, be careful traveling this summer. A hospital shuts down due to ransomware. And always go for the equity, but know the risks. That's all we have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find us on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank you to all our listeners and subscribers who rated us 5 stars in the iTunes Store and Spotify and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is to search for the PEBCAK Podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. My co-host Brian Deach and the absent Glenn Medina, I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next weekend. As always, have a nice day.
It's Glenn. Bye, Felicia.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
And stop.
And stop.
Have a nice day.